Starmer's China visit comes less than 2 months after a Hong Kong court convicted Jimmy Lai. I know you're good friends with him. Starmer said he'll, quote, raise issues that need to be raised. How important is it that he push for Jimmy Lai's release during this trip?
Well, it's extraordinarily important. There are a number of backdrops to the Starmer visit. One is last week's approval of the mega embassy, the Chinese mega embassy in London, in the old Royal Mint building and site. It was a massive concession to Communist China, and it is something that a lot of people are very upset about in Great Britain. Of course, the new revelations that have just come out about the Salt Typhoon spying the hacking of phones of leaders in number 10 Downing Street over the last several years. It's very, very serious. And frankly, in the context of these things, diplomatically speaking, the release of British citizen Jimmy Lai so that he can go back to the UK and be given his freedom after this torture that he's been put through of years of solitary confinement, of being denied his religious rights while in prison, denied to be able to practice his faith and do other things, not to even mention the trumped up charges and the farcical trial process to release Jimmy back to the UK is the absolute minimum that should be expected from this visit. And I hope to see Jimmy returned to his family and returned to the country of his citizenship as a result of this visit. It should have happened a long time ago.
And if Jimmy's case doesn't get brought up, would that tell you something about where relations are headed between the two countries? Is the UK perhaps softening its security concerns around China and failing to stand by its values?
I find it difficult to believe that it wouldn't be brought up as a major issue. And if it wasn't brought up, if it isn't brought up, there are enormous questions to be asked as to why. And it would mark a crossing of a Rubicon in terms of Britain not being willing to stand up for the most basic right of its citizens in a jurisdiction where the agreement that Communist China entered into for the handover of Hong Kong has long since been cast aside, and underlines to me and underlines to people in Britain and all around the world that China cannot be trusted, that it will not be good to its word, and that when it was willing to tear up and disregard the agreement that it set in place with Britain for the handover of Hong Kong, how could it be expected to respect any other agreement?
Now, as to the mega embassy, as you mentioned earlier, Starmer is saying that it is in our national interest to engage with China, adding that the relationship brought huge opportunities. Many say that this China trip was dependent on that recent approval of that mega embassy in central London, which human rights activists are up in arms about. What concerns does that embassy raise for you?
Well, I mean, they've been widely reported, but for example, the site is in the City of London, which is the financial capital of one of the key financial capitals of the world. And the activity that goes on there, it's been very widely reported, the vital communications cables that passed through that site and under that site, the proximity to key infrastructure to one of the world's most important financial capitals is alarming. And the fact that you are going to have a concentration of communist Chinese activity in that location is something that has caused great alarm for those that have been observing this. Now, and then on the back of this, the revelations in the British newspapers, in the Daily Telegraph and others yesterday and today, of the hacking of senior figures at number 10 Downing Street, at the top levels of British government, is again a cause for grave concern. And people may say, well, we know that they do this anyway, and it's something indeed that I've said on your own TV channel in previous years, going back to 2019 and even earlier, that this is something that was going on and would be going on. We can't keep rewarding it. The communist China has denuded the West and Britain. It's played a large part in denuding it of industrial capacity and might. Great Britain was once the workshop of the world. That has now moved to communist China. And I think that the continuation of policies that reward communist China and continue to shift manufacturing and industrial capacity to China and out of places like Great Britain, I think, and of course Europe and indeed the United States, these have done enormous damage to Western capacity, to our national security, to our economy, to our economic interests, and this has to stop.